right now you're at 8 clients, still in college, which is crazy. What's your MRR right now?
Around 8.5K.
That's amazing, dude. Good for you. Welcome back to a brand new student spotlight interview. Today I'm here with the man himself, Adrian. You want to just give a quick rundown of who you are, where you're from, how old you are, and what you're doing with your agency?
My name is Adrian. I'm 22 years old, and I currently run a B2B lead gen agency with cold email. I'm from Mexico, and I mainly work with companies like in Latin America, like a lot of tech and software companies to generate leads.
When you mentioned that you're still in college, which is super interesting because I actually started my agency when I was still in school. I chose to graduate, which a lot of people frown upon in this space. So props to you for sticking it out in school. So before we dive into client ascension and all the nitty gritty stuff, how did you discover cold email as a service? How did you get going with your first client?
For cold email, it was like the old school content, like from Alex Berman and also from Daniel. I started learning from Alex YouTube videos, then I found Daniel on Twitter. And that's how I started learning cold email. I started working first for free, then I started getting my first paying clients for like a few bucks, and then high ticket.
That's crazy. So many people came up through Alex and Daniel, just finding them online. So you're based in Mexico, right?
Yeah, correct.
That's super interesting, dude, because cost of living down there is obviously a lot less than America, unless I'm wrong, right? A lot of people struggle with charging what they're worth. And I feel like for you, it would be a little bit easier to let yourself off the hook. I shouldn't get paid as much as an American person, or any of those limiting beliefs. So talk me through charging what you feel your services are worth, getting paid by your clients, and that kind of stuff.
It's good to maybe charge a little bit less in the beginning, but I have found that when you charge little, people don't really care. For example, with cold email, you may send them an onboarding form, right? And maybe they just go through it, fill it randomly, and you don't really have the information. But when you charge high ticket, I have noticed that people actually commit and they take things serious, and it's easier to work with him. I have two experiences when I started with low ticket and high ticket, and the client experience has been better with high ticket. They also get better results, which is funny.
So you joined Client Ascension about 2 months ago now?
Yeah, exactly. In May, I think.
Gotcha. So where were you at when you joined in May in terms of clients, revenue, things like that?
In terms of clients, I had 5, I think. Now I have 8. So I was doing cold email in the old way. I honestly was trapped on the old way of doing cold email. I was just doing email with 2 domains and still doing the personalized first line and all of that. But with Client Ascension, I noticed that I was actually being lazy with cold email and that you can actually achieve more because I already had a lot of calls. I was a bit hesitant to buy more domains because I said, if I already have calls, why have more domains? But I noticed that with your method in my market, the Spanish market, if you take that here, you get crazy results. Cold email was new in the US. It's really crazy what I have seen.
Talk me through your best campaign. I think you said your client got 20 booked calls in a week or really something crazy. Talk me through that.
One of the recent campaigns I started for one of the clients, they sell a software. They mainly target IT managers, etc. One of the things that we did is, first of all, I took your advice of changing the campaign from instantly to smartly. Something that's really funny is that the campaign is actually the same, but it's performing better in smartly. And before we were doing 2 domains, now we're doing 10. Before they were having maybe 4 to 5 calls a month, and they're having right now 10 to 12 calls, which is really insane.
That's crazy. So if anyone watching is in the Mexican or the Spanish speaking markets, cold email actually works even better than America, which is crazy to think about because less competition. I'm assuming your emails are in Spanish.
Yeah, email in Spanish.
So right now you're at 8 clients, still in college, which is crazy. What's your MRR right now, if you don't mind sharing?
Around 8.5K.
That's amazing, dude. Good for you. Ever since you joined Client Ascension, you hit me up. We've talked previously before Client Ascension about scripting and copywriting. What was the thing that got you over the edge? All right, I just got to join and take the risk and go all in on this thing.
So basically it was your expertise with cold email because I really wanted to get better my service because there are a lot of courses that teach you how to get clients for yourself. I really wanted to become really good at cold email, and because I knew Daniel and you also run an agency and also you have Nick as a coach who has 100 clients, I thought it was the best place to join to learn cold email and get the results for my clients. For myself, I was doing really well for my campaigns, but for my clients, I noticed that I could do better with the things I learned. They are getting more calls now, which is really good.
That's awesome, dude. So what's one thing that you've learned in Client Ascension now that you didn't think you were going to learn from Client Ascension before you joined? One thing that was unexpected that you didn't know was inside the program?
I think it was the sales. With sales, I previously gone to some open course. I pretty much had everything, the script, etc., which was something I already had. I really thought that maybe the sales wouldn't be something that would be very impactful for me. I was thinking more about cold email. Then I joined and I noticed that with sales, my process wasn't really optimal because I was doing a 2-call close when you don't really need it for a service like mine, really ROI based. The sales coach advised me to, instead of doing this whole long process because a lot of people didn't show up to the second call, then we had them book a 3rd call, and then David told me, you're almost treating your service as it was hyper high ticket and you are selling to corporate. You just try to do your close in 1 call, and so far it has worked really well. People make decisions questions on the first call or on the second call, which was something that didn't happen before.
100%, dude. That's awesome. So sales was kind of an unexpected benefit of the program. How have you been able to utilize Client Ascension so far? Has it been the video course, the Slack, the connections, live calls, the community? What would you say has been like the biggest ROI in terms of the program itself?
I think that the live calls, because most of the content it's already online, but you never get to ask like specific questions about your situation. For example, one of the most valuable things for me in Client Ascension is jumping with you on the cold email campaign reviews, because I can bring you scripts from my clients, optimize them. Also, the operations call with Andres, I sometimes ask him very specific questions about my agency that there are things that you can really find online. There are situations that are unexpected and you have already gone through that. I think that's really valuable.
What kind of clients do you work with? Are they marketing agencies, logistics, SaaS companies? Like, what's your typical client look like?
I actually work with the people that you got advice working not with. So I mainly work with tech guys that have very complex offers like IT, software development, and those offers that are like really hard to solve, quote unquote. But I have noticed that these offers don't really need like cold email. They don't really need fancy scripts. I have seen the simplest scripts work with this type of offers. They are like very technical offers. Most of them don't really have an ROI that you can say. Moving now to also work with marketing agencies, which is easier to sell. But right now I have just worked with IT guys and tech.
So you're getting results for IT and tech in the Spanish market. Like if you work with a SaaS or a marketing agency, you're going to get 20% call books rate, which is crazy. What would you say your biggest goal is between now and the time you graduate? Is it a certain number of clients under your wing? Like what's your biggest goal that you want to hit before you graduate? And then you can hit the ground running full time with your agency.
I really want to get 20K a month. Also work like in the operation side, because one of the things with cold email agencies that the operations tend to be like very tedious and hard, quote unquote. I like to get to 20K. Would be really good for me. Then just sell from that.
And do you want to stay where you're at now? Do you want to move, travel? What's your goal for lifestyle?
I honestly would stay here because I don't really want to go to other places because they have really high taxes, and also the cost of living is not really, compared to living here, it's like a very big difference. So I definitely would stay here and maybe travel from time to time.
Who's one person that you've met in Client Ascension so far that you made a good relationship with? Like a coach, student, community member?
Yeah, so mainly you, Andre, and my CSM, Andy. Andre has helped me a lot with client communications and handling like difficult situations. You with cold email, because now I'm optimizing each campaign and I can bring new things to my market and not just stay with the usual stuff that you would see in a cold email. And then Andre, who is my customer success manager, he has helped me a lot, guiding me through the process of implementing everything and checking in with me like every week and making sure that I get done like the things I set out to do.
That's awesome. Andy's the man, dude. Most energetic guy ever, right? Any questions for me or anything you want to go over on this call? You can ask me some cold email tricks. This will go on the YouTube channel. So any value we can give, let's do it.
My question would be for you, like, how would you go about selling offers that are not sexy? Like, for example, the ones that I do, like IT and software. Would you like definitely try to avoid working with those guys? Or what would you do in these situations with these very technical guys that also target a technical audience that it's kind of like hard to get? What would you do?
With the technical side of things, you want to focus on case studies. So instead of stating a benefit, state a specific case study that the software's got. Like, for example, say it helped a manufacturing plant triple their output. You could say, hi, Adrian, notice you're in charge of company names, operations. My logistics software recently helped this manufacturing plant triple their output last month and they became 200% more profitable. Mind if I send over a quick demo explaining how we can help you see the same results at your plant, right? And then another thing you want to do is, if you're in a really technical space, either have your client give you advice on this or use ChatGPT, but figure out like specific metrics that these places care about. Maybe revenue and leads and sales is great and all, but like for manufacturing, for example, maybe like inventory turnover rate or misprint rate at a clothing factory. Just random examples here, but things that specifically apply to an industry will always do better in a cold email than just saying leads, sales, revenue, that kind of thing. Like the best example I can give is like a lawyer. Instead of pitching leads to a lawyer, pitch personal injury cases, family divorce cases, things like that, where it's so specific that when they read it, they go, oh yeah, this guy knows my industry. He knows what keeps me up at night. These type of cases or leads or sales metrics are the exact things that I want. Let me talk to this guy. Industry specific language, and then using case studies as much as you can, I would say.
That's really awesome. And for example, what would you say, like someone that has an offer like in Latin America and wants to do cold email in the US, what are the things that they should have in mind, like when selling to the US audience? Like what are the main differences? Like, can you do the same scripts, or how has cold email evolved in terms of what used to work in the past, like the one sentence case study, the custom first line, like how is it cold email now, like in 2023?
In reality, the scripting should work to the US market. One thing I think you can compete on a South American American company pitching a US company is the cost savings, because they're going to charge less than a US based competitor. So pitching that cost savings, like, hey, we're based in Mexico, our rates are 60% cheaper, and our quality of work is just as good as an American competitor. Pitching the same quality with a lot less cheaper prices, I think you should just address that right up front. Like, hey, you can manufacture your clothes in Florida, but you're going to pay 200% more than if you came through us in Mexico. Our shipping times are just as fast. We operate in the same time zone as you. We're just cheaper. So just like admitting that it's a cheaper alternative and showing them why that's a good thing, instead of like, oh, that's a shitty quality product, I'm not going to talk to this guy.
I know cold email has changed a lot. So what are your thoughts on doing very segmented campaigns? So instead of like just picking like e-commerce, going for like Shopify brands that sell supplements. I have seen like a lot of people that are now starting to do a lot of segmentation, but my question has always been like, how far can you take it? Does it really like help with the meeting book rate? Like if you do like a very specific campaign, but there are not like a lot of leads, does that actually bring you more calls, or is it something that you should like implement?
It really depends on your messaging. If you get specific on your audience, like supplement brands or women's clothing brands, that makes your first line that much better. Like, hey, my friend's a huge gym guy, he recommended your supplements to me, right? You can't use that line if you're hitting up any e-commerce brand, but because you're specifically targeting supplements, you can get really specific on your personalization. And then the case study, go after the industries where your clients already have the best results. For example, if your client has a bunch of case studies with supplements, don't go target women's clothing just for the fun of it. Target the space that they're already well known in and already get results in, and use those case studies in your email. Like, hey, we just helped XYZ supplements get 15% more sales last month with our growth strategy. You know, mind if I share a few ideas I had to help you do the same? So when someone reads that, they're like, oh, this dude already has experience and success in my specific industry. I'm going to trust them more. I'm going to listen to them.
Well, my last question to you would be like, how did you came up with the mass personalized lines, and how do you actually create them? Have you tried to create ChatGPT script to come up with them? I once tried to give ChatGPT your mass custom line to create some. It has worked for some cases, but not always. So I'm wondering like, how do you come up with this? Because this is something that requires like creativity.
So I came up with it because we were using AI first lines and they worked, but a lot of people would get inaccurate lines sent to them. So it would be like, hey, congrats on your recent experience at Client Ascension. And the person would be like, I never worked there. What are you talking about? And it ruined the whole email. So we came to the realization, hey, if we can take a list that we're targeting, what's one thing in common with them? Let's just say they're all in Mexico. You could say, hey, notice you're one of the top executives in Mexico. Now that's personalized and it applies to every single person on the list that you're reaching out to. So what I do when I'm writing them from scratch is I'll see what similarities a list has and I'll go from there. So for example, location, Mexico, Florida, reference that. Industry and location. So if it's like restaurants in Mexico, you can say, notice you're one of the best restaurants in Mexico. Love your menu item. They're going to be like, oh, that's really nice of you. If it's a job title thing, maybe you're targeting owners, founders, CEOs. You could say, notice you're a major player in company name's growth efforts. As the owner of company name, I imagine you're looking for benefit. As the owner of company name, I imagine you're sick of pain point. And you can just mix and match these different openers and you'll figure out like, hey, these lines are really making people bring their guard down and read my email. And then I go from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. And have you seen like a difference between not using like really personalized lines versus using this? Because me, like coming from the old school cold email, like when I saw that you are not using personal lines, first I was like, oh, is this going to mess with my results? Actually, no. I actually worked less. Like I was doing like a lot of personalization that was not needed. But what's your experience like using the personal lines and these mass ones?
What is the results?
Yeah, so if you see like difference in results, if you do mass personalized versus the other way.
Honestly, dude, there's not too much of a difference. The one thing I will say is if you have a VA that writes every single line for you, that's a great investment, because if every single line can be really personalized and accurate, that's going to do the best. Like someone in Client Ascension has a VA that writes an opener for every single person based on their LinkedIn and they crush. So if you want to invest the time and the money into a VA, do that. But if you want to just mass personalize, your results aren't going to be that much different from AI. So either go all in with a VA that writes them by hand or just do the mass ones where you write it one time and it applies to everyone in your list. Anything else you want to go over?
I've learned like a lot from you from cold email, and yeah, I'm really grateful from being with you in Client Ascension, because my campaigns used to be like very old school, the usual stuff, and now like innovating like the scripts are used here. One time I asked you a question because I was personalized the industry for each company in my lead list, and you told me like, why are you doing that? Those little things about cold email that I have learned here like have helped a lot.
One last question: where can the audience find you, work with you, wants your expertise for Spanish speaking cold email? Where can someone find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Adrian Saldivar, with a C and a V. And also you can go on my website, which is zsbusinessconsulting.com. And then you can book a call from there.
Appreciate you being here. Thanks for doing this. And cheers. Thanks, guys.